It began as a simple dream, one doctor with a passion for helping Oklahomans look and feel their very best. Today, Dr. Victoria Johnson is celebrating 21 years as one of the nation's most experienced laser and cosmetic specialists. Visit laserlightsc.com to learn more.
Welcome to the 2023 FFB Awards Highlights. And First Fidelity Bank is on a tear right now. You know, when FFB hits the field, they always play to win.
Welcome to a special presentation of Sellout Crowd, Conversations with Coach. I'm Bob Stoops. I'm taking time to talk with my friends and colleagues in the sports world to get caught up and to share some stories. Today I'm joined with Kirk Herbstreit, longtime friend and now colleague in the media. But Kirk, former Ohio State Buckeye, five-time Sports Emmy Award winner. I'm going to brag on you, Kirk. Color commentator for college football games on ESPN and ABC. Thursday night NFL games on Amazon Prime Video. And the lead analyst for ESPN's College Game Day. Joined ESPN in 1996. That's where I first met you, Kirk, right? You were just started with ESPN. Talk about your beginnings there at ESPN in 96.
Well, first, it's great to see you and great to be with you. It's cool you're doing this. I think this is I've watched you do your talk show when you were coaching and just saw you have a lot of fun with it, you know, and I thought this would be something. I'm glad you're having a little bit of fun dabbling in this and talking to folks and getting staying in touch with the game the way I know you love to do. When you think of 1996, I always tell this story. You'll love this. I grew up in the Midwest, just like you in Ohio. I knew Big Ten football when I was 23 years old. And by the time I was 25, I was on the game day set going around the country. My very first SEC game that I ever saw in person was in Neyland Stadium in 1996 when Steve Spurrier and the Florida Gators came into Neyland Stadium against Peyton Manning. And it was a monsoon coming down, and it was one of the loudest, most intimidating atmospheres. I was just looking around, hearing Rocky Top. I was thinking the rain might dampen the atmosphere. They were out to beat Spurrier. They wanted to beat Florida. Rocky Top was going on. I was like, there's no way Florida can win in this atmosphere with Peyton Manning. And this is when people didn't go for it on fourth down.
Right.
Florida's moving the ball. They get to right around midfield. Might have been 4th and 7, 4th and 8. I don't know. It's obvious.
It was 4th and 8.
Yeah, like obvious punting situation, pin them back.
Yeah.
And Steve Spurrier, who's way ahead of the curve, decides to go for it. Well, there was no analytics saying go for it. It was just Steve Spurrier being Steve Spurrier. Yep. He goes for it. And Danny Warfel hits Riddell Anthony on a post for a touchdown from about 45 or 50 yards out. And we went from the loudest stadium I've ever been in to the quietest stadium I've ever been in. And it was almost like in a blink of an eye, that stadium went, oh, no, not again.
Well,
it was that was awesome.
Well, I met you a few days before that game, right, to interview about the OU Tennessee. I'm the D coordinator at Florida at the time. And if you remember, it didn't stop there. There's 10 minutes to go in the second quarter, and we're winning 35-0 in that atmosphere.
Oh my gosh. You guys were on fire, and the offense gets a lot of attention in those years, but the defense, you guys had serious playmakers on that side of the football. What a defense.
It was fun. So you were 25 years old at that time?
Yeah.
How about that? So you've been with ESPN now this 26th season?
28th year.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So good for you. Doing an awesome job. You're the busiest guy in the whole country this time of year. I mean, not only college game day, calling college games, flying, like you'll leave college game day, fly to a game somewhere. And then on Sundays or whatever, your Thursdays, you're also doing NFL games. Talk about right now, maybe some of the differences, college, NFL, how you manage that. I get the game's a little bit different. How is it for you, though, calling and getting prepared for them?
Well, it's crazy to do 3 big properties. The Thursday night game, and I'll grab my board. Here's my board for the Commanders and the Bears that I have on Thursday night. I just got off the Zoom with the Bears. Justin Fields and their defense and their head coach, and I got my OU Texas board right here. So the challenging part, because I'm a grinder, being from Ohio, that's just kind of the way we are. And I wasn't, in our business, you're either a guy like yourself, a very, very accomplished coach, or you're, Desmond Howard, who won a Heisman and a Super Bowl MVP, or all these guys were all Americans, Troy Aikman. They made a monster name for their brand off of being a player. I didn't. I played at Ohio State, solid player, but I didn't make a national name for myself. So going way back to when I met you in 96, who am I to talk about Florida and Tennessee, right? So my way of doing that was over-prepare by talking to you, talking to Coach Spurrier, talking to Philip Fulmer, talking to Peyton, whoever I could consume information from, I would do. So I would at least go into a broadcast thinking I'm the most prepared broadcaster in the country to call this game or do College Game Day. So that's kind of where I started. Then I started to have some success, and I just kind of stayed in that lane because I don't know any other way to do it. So my reason I tell you that is I've got this Thursday night game that most people do, in a week of preparation. I got to do it in like 3 days. So I'm like overloading, prepping on that. And then I'll balance out getting ready for my Saturday game. Then I have a 3-hour studio show. So basically between balancing my wife, my kids, and my job, I don't have a minute much in the day for 4 months other than preparation for one of these properties that I'm working on. So there's some guys that maybe are comfortable just showing up and calling a game, and they're knowledgeable enough to maybe get through it. I feel like I owe it to the game, to the teams I'm working on, to the studio show that I'm doing, just to try to be as informed and prepared as I can be. And doesn't mean I'm right. It just means I feel prepared, and that makes me feel at ease, when I go on air.
And I'm sure you put that board together yourself. You don't have someone else putting it together.
What I do is I have a company that'll put at least the names together, on a board like this. And then by the time I'm done with it, trying to see if I have a board here. By the time I'm done with it, it looks like just a bunch of
arrows and stars and
just a bunch of different, it becomes something like this where you just write a bunch of stuff on it, and
all your notes.
All my notes that I gather from the coaches and the players. And the delicate part of that, honestly, is when you tell me something in confidence. That hey, we because guys like you were really kind to me and opened up and would tell me, like, instead of talking like at a podium where you're just kind of saying stuff. I would come in and you would be real, or coordinators would be real with me, trusting that I'm not going to say, hey, he said this. So the tricky part is using helpful information in a way that you're never going to burn a relationship in any way. And I've never done that in 28 years, and I never will. I could do Ohio State, Michigan. I could talk to Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan players. They could tell me literally anything. I would never go and talk to Ohio State about it. So
sure.
That helps it, but then you got to figure out how to utilize that information where you're not hurting the coach, but also you're sounding informed and kind of plugged in.
Exactly. Well, you do an incredible job for sure. Last couple real quick to talk college football. In my opinion, just watching it, it's only been 5 games. It doesn't seem to be as much separation between the few 1, 2, 3 elites or top to the rest. In other words, Georgia doesn't seem to be just so far ahead, or Alabama or Ohio State. What's your take on it? Is some of that because of the transfer portal? Kind of how do you see, or just kind of that's how it is this year?
Well, I got to believe the portal has something to do with it. When I call these teams, Oklahoma's an example, where they were last year to where they are this year. I think Brent's been able to reload a little bit by going into the portal and getting guys that instead of taking a true freshman coming in,
right,
he might be able to help. Now you got a guy that's played 2 or 3 years somewhere, and you know who he is as a college player. So I think it definitely has helped some of these teams. And I think the behemoths have lost some critical players over the last couple of years. So I think the timing of it almost has created a perfect storm. Now, we don't know how good Georgia is yet. They looked like this last year, but then they kind of took off near the end. But they had a quarterback that you kind of knew who he was. We're still learning. All these teams, Alabama, quarterback, Georgia, quarterback, Ohio State, quarterback. The one team we know is Michigan, who's got a quarterback that won a lot of big games last year. So I think that's why it's created this wide open discussion about who's the best team. Clemson, another team that's a behemoth. They're dealing with quarterback issues. So that's why OU Texas this week, for the team that wins, man, they are in a really, really good place and become teams that, we're going to be taking even a closer look at in coming weeks. Texas, because of the win against Alabama and Tuscaloosa, they became a team that's like, what's going on with Texas, Florida State, because of the way they beat Clemson and they beat LSU. That got everybody excited about them. So, there's like Washington out west, Oregon, USC. I mean, it's a wide open discussion as we get to almost the halfway point.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree. The quarterbacks, I know we always talk about them, but it is such a factor. Every year, the best quarterbacks, you got the best 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks. You got the best chance of winning a conference championship or a national championship, definitely.
Yeah,
they always.
Look at your great teams. Look at all your great teams. I mean,
absolutely.
You were always in that spot.
They're in the Heisman, or they were at the Heisman ceremony if we didn't win it. So
exactly.
you're exactly right. Lastly, how do you see, real brief, because you're calling the game? How do you see OU Texas this week? I see, again, 2 really good quarterbacks, and I know defensively, I really feel Oklahoma's different than a year ago.
Well, see, I'm going to have to call you later in the week because I've watched Oklahoma, but I think this week, at least as an outsider, I think all of us are going to obviously learn a lot more about who they really are. I'm a big fan of Jeff Lebby and what they do on that side of the football. You know what they're capable of doing, especially with Dylan. They seem to have more playmakers around him. They seem to be in the second year, just playing faster on that side of the ball. And then everybody knew, Brent learned under you and Mike. I mean, everybody knew his reputation. He went to Clemson and one of the better defensive minds, one of the more innovative defensive minds in the game. And, just looking at this team, the defensive line looks so different than where they were a year ago, which is, better than anybody. When you got a rotation of 8 or 9 or 10 guys, you can stay fresh. I go back to your great teams. You had defensive linemen that were game changers. They just were able to win one-on-one and be disruptive. They look like they are, but now here comes Texas with Quinn Ewers and a young back in this Jonathan Brooks, who seems to be kind of really emerging for them after losing Bijan. So I feel like we know more about Texas just because of being tested a little bit. I feel like if OU wins this game, they're going to all of a sudden be a major splash on the scene in the college football world. Because right now, after the year they had last year, I think the college football world's like, I'm not sure yet about who they are yet. And if they go out and win this game, their entire world will change drastically because of the attention and the stage that they're about to step into on Saturday. So it's going to be a great game. These games you lived, I can't imagine what it's been like to coach. These games that go back and forth and seem to be a one-possession game most years. Yeah. And as a guy calling the game, I'm just hoping we get that kind of battle back and forth Saturday in Dallas.
Yeah, it was great fun. You can bet on that. But hey, again, I'm respectful of your time here, Kirk. Appreciate you sharing with us, and always look forward to seeing you whenever that is going to be. Again, you're the best, and we'll keep watching you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Hope to see you this Saturday.
All right, buddy. That wraps up this installment of Conversations with Coach. Follow and subscribe to this channel and visit selloutcrowd.com to find out about upcoming programs.